That does remind me, I should be recording this. I will be posting the recording of this meeting afterwards if you want to go back and review it. If you want to review the slides and any information on the slides, or you want to review what was said or the answers from our experts here tonight, you can also reach out to me if you want to look at the slides up close and personal.
This, okay, sorry, folks. This is not the biggest, not even close to being a big presentation or anything. What about sharing this kind of desktop? I mean, how about that? No, even that.
Why don't I go ahead and share it for a minute?
Em, do you want to try to just open it on the S drive and?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a first. I think, Em, you'll be able to open it in just.
Yeah, that should be fine.
And if you have to open read only, it looks like I'm not even able to close it. No, there we go. Well, we're just adding a little excitement. It's in Gateway of Prospect.
There we go.
Neighborhood meeting, staff presentation.
All righty. Where were we? I think we were about here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and skip this stuff because
Yeah.
I want to move on to your presentation, Clark. So
Okay. Right.
Why don't you go ahead and start telling folks about the process and where we're at in the process?
Yeah. So go up one, and that is very self-explanatory. The point being, this is early in the process. We have had a conceptual meeting with the developer team and all the different city departments that would be involved. But this is early in the process. If they decide to proceed, it looks like they will. Then they actually submit a development plan. Staff reviews that and eventually brings recommendations to a public hearing. And anyone who got a letter for this meeting would also get a letter for the public hearing. Are you also frozen? No.
I'm on it.
Okay. Well, kind of a long story short. Anyway, you see the site there, the orange MMN. The zoning is called medium density mixed use neighborhood. I don't know how much the applicants were going to explain all of this, but anyway, I'll be quick here and we can always come back to it. But the point is that this property was zoned, I'd say pretty much specifically for an apartment complex like this in 2017. And if you go down, I have the little bit of information about the zoning. The main points, you don't have to read all of this, but it's a zone district that envisions multifamily housing as the main, the predominant use, but configured in a neighborhood pattern with streets and blocks. These units are homes. We call for homes to face onto street sidewalks, or perhaps be sideways to street sidewalks where you can walk right out to the street sidewalk. But anyway, just neighborhood configuration in a town-like pattern, not so much individual projects separated. This is kind of part of a whole city vision for residential development and especially multifamily. So Em, you can skip the next slide because it was just more about the MMN zone. Oh, and skip that. I meant to take that out. I think I saw that Savannah was going to mention that there is an approved master plan for this whole Gateway property. I think it's 160 acres or something like that, 140 acres. But on the overall development plan that is approved, you can see that the property there is MMN. So we can go down to the next. slide. Oh, there, since that overall development plan was done, I mean, in the years after, the developer team has been working pretty much continuously on ideas for the site. They've done this illustrative plan that we've discussed as staff. It's not an official plan or approved, but it actually was looking supportable by staff if and when and as it moves forward. And you can see the development plan that they're going to talk about tonight is on the right. And it's just a very literal translation of what we've been seeing for a few years. I was thinking if the name of this project does not end up having the words pork chop in it, then I think you're doing something wrong. I think that's a pork chop. It's some kind of steak or something. Okay, M. And down. I think that's all I was going to say. Yeah, just if we need, I've got this picture of the land and shows the neighborhood to the west. I-25 shows Box Elder Creek, some of that context. But with that, let's see what the applicants want to present.
Fabulous. Okay. Hopefully you have less trouble than we do.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your time. I'm Drew Kraft with the Rockefeller Group. My colleague Dave Kleba and I are both on this call. We represent the Rockefeller Group. We're the developer of the 13-acre multifamily housing project that's part of the 176-acre master plan development there. We have brought with us here tonight members of our design team to help present what we plan on doing and also answer any questions. So we've got representatives from Norris Design, who's our land planner. We also have Studio PBA, our architect, and Northern Engineering, our civil engineer here as well. So really with that, I wanted to hand it off to Savannah with Norris Design to kind of walk you through our presentation of what we plan to do there at our 13-acre site.
Great, thank you, Drew, for the intros. So I'm going to attempt to do a PowerPoint. I also have a PDF just in case the PowerPoint doesn't work, but we'll start with the PD or with the PowerPoint. All right, can everyone see that?
Looks great.
Awesome. All right, so as Clark and Drew and others have mentioned, we're here to talk about the Gateway at Prospect apartment projects this evening. And we're going to talk first a little bit about the overall master plan, as Clark alluded to in his presentation. So our site is a part of this overall development vision for the northwest corner of Prospect and I-25. And as you can see on this plan, there's a mix of different zoning districts within this kind of overall master vision of this area, which includes predominantly residential uses on kind of the west side of the development. And then lots closer to the interstate, you'll see our zoned commercial and employment uses. So this is kind of part of that overall vision as Clark was talking about. Our site that we're talking about this evening is this MMN, medium density mixed use neighborhood. And we are proposing to do a variety of housing types for a multifamily development. So as far as kind of the overall plan, you'll see that our site is about 13 acres in size. There's an open space. The Box Elder open space is directly to the southeast of this site, as well as a trail that will run along the southeast property line of our site. So you can see that the green represents kind of the net acreage or the acreage that is developable for this tract here. So we will be developing the portion that proposing to develop a portion of the site that is not within that the open space area to the southeast. I will also mention, as has been alluded to, this has gone through kind of a zoning process and is currently, I think, going through an infrastructure process as well to really look closely at the infrastructure in this area, including the road networks and whatnot. And so if there are questions on that, TV Group is also here that can speak to kind of this overall vision of the site. And also the apartments, as mentioned, are a use by right, but there is a hearing process that's involved as well, which does mention that here. So as part of this process, we are required to go through a review process with the city of Fort Collins. There is also going to be a planning and zoning board hearing that is part of this review, predominantly because we are proposing more than 50 dwelling units on this site. The overall minimum density of this site is 12, a minimum of 12 dwelling units per acre. So we do plan on meeting that requirement. And also we will meet the requirement of a limit of 3 stories and also the height requirements that are as part of the overall development. So these next couple of slides are just talking about our proposed development. I will actually move on to this slide here that shows a very similar concept plan as Clark showed in his presentation. It shows a little bit similar kind of design as he was showing, where we've got an access road that kind of runs through the site, kind of access from the north and from the west. And it really will function like a private street along here. And we'll really have, as you can see, there's street trees along there. So it will really feel like a private street running through this development. We also are proposing a total of 276 units within 10 buildings on the site. We are also proposing roughly 8,000 square feet of private amenity space that will be predominantly in the southern portion of the site. It will include open space, a leasing, a clubhouse, and a pool deck. Also, as I mentioned previously, there's a trail proposed along the southeast property line that kind of runs along the buffer area next to the Box Elder Creek open space area. So that will really have a nice natural feel to it and will be a great amenity for the neighborhood as well. We briefly wanted to mention the project timeline. Sounds like Clark alluded to this as well, but we just wanted to give kind of a rough estimated timeline of what this will look like. As mentioned, we had a concept review meeting in August with the city of Fort Collins. We're having our neighborhood meeting this evening, and then we intend to submit formally in November for the, it's called a project development review process that will typically last about 6 months. There's about a three round review process. And then as mentioned, we will be looking at going to hearing. This is certainly a conceptual timeline right now. This certainly could change. But the goal is to get through that PDP process or that site plan review process in about 6 months. There's also some technical review that occurs following the hearings, as well as building permit and whatnot as well. So there certainly is a review process involved, and there certainly will be more opportunities to discuss any questions as we proceed as well. And that's all we have for our presentation. If there's any questions, we wanted to leave plenty of time for questions. And if anyone else from the applicant team has any items to add, but we're certainly here to answer any questions you have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Savannah. That was a really great, very thorough presentation. So it's time to open things up for questions. We've got about an hour, so lots of time to make sure that questions and comments are heard and responded to. So it looks like we've got some hands up already. So go ahead and put your hands up if you've got questions. I will take them in the order that your hands are up in. I do encourage you to ask, if you've got multiple questions, ask one at a time. And if you've got another one, we'll go ahead and put you at the bottom of the queue. I think we can probably get to all of them tonight. So hopefully we can get everyone's questions answered. But Linda, it looks like your hand was up first, so go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, I'm Linda. Live in the neighborhood that's being affected by this. And I'm curious, where exactly are the ingress and egress for this development going to be created? Is it coming off a Summit View? Is it coming off a Prospect? So how are people going to get in and out of this development?
We can certainly share the site plan again, if you'd like to take a look at that. So you can see Prospect Road is to the south of this development.
Right,
And proposed with the infrastructure project that's going on right now, there is a Street B is shown here, and I would look to others to see if there's another name that's been determined for that, but that will be one of the access points, as well as Street D to the north. So Prospect Road will be kind of the primary originated access point, and there will be additional streets adjacent to this site. Stephanie,
So-
do you have more information on that?
I was just going to say that there's also going to be a street connection to the frontage road, which is shown as that Street E in the upper right corner.
okay, Street B, is that east of Summit View? And where does Street D come in on the north end?
So
In
Street
relation
B,
to the, in relation to the existing streets?
thank you for bringing this up. So yes, Street B, which is the north-south street on the west side of the site, that is actually going to be east of the existing neighborhood.
Okay,
This whole thing is east of and separated from the existing subdivision that, Box Elder Estates, that is along Summit View.
okay, so it's totally gonna have its own way of getting in and out of there,
That's right.
not
And
impacting
there
Box
are-
Elder.
There are decades of planning by Box Elder Estates folks to make sure that there's never any connection to any development here to the east. There's an HOA HOA land that was done for that purpose, as I understand it, but
Right,
yeah, this
Okay.
is all completely east.
all right, thank you.
All right, David, your hand is up. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Ask your question.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, couple questions. One of the first slides said something about developments like this go in within easy walking distance to mass transit. I don't think it is. What's the current plans for expanding mass transit out to this area?
Okay. What I would say about the purpose statement for the zoning district is that it describes the sort of aspiration of the zoning district when it was first created. The best example of one of these zoning districts is in Rigdon Farm, if you know where that is, on Timberline and Drake, where there is a supermarket, shopping center, and then you've got multifamily housing around that, and then more single unit housing around that, all together in a continuous linked pattern. But the zoning does apply to other places where that is not going to happen quite in that way. Oh, and also being on significant transit lines. So there may be a time in the future when transit runs out to I-25 along Prospect. I don't know exactly what our current long-term transportation master plan is. But anyway, there are things in that purpose statement that do not get enforced in every MMN development project. It's describing the vision for the zone, but that's not a requirement or regulation. The zone district then goes on to and consists of regulations, which we call standards for development. But the purpose statement isn't standards per se. I hope that's satisfactory, but yeah, that purpose statement applies to all kinds of MMN land all around the city. And actually, most of it doesn't quite fit the ideal diagram that you would come up with that
I,
purpose.
I
statement.
understand. It's pie in the sky, and that's fine. That's a great thing to have. That's a great goal to have. But
There
I
you go.
understand. Yeah,
There you
right,
go.
okay. Next question. Can I go ahead? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. We don't have any other
Okay,
hands up.
with the addition of Timnath High School, traffic on Prospect has probably doubled in the last year, okay? And with adding this on, it's gonna make it even worse. If you're driving east from Summit View to the freeway, you just see a jam of cars all the way up to the freeway. What are the plans for addressing traffic on Prospect as a result of this development?
There is a plan. And do we have engineering? Tim, do you know about the plans for Prospect?
Hi, sorry about that.
Okay,
Yeah, so I know that the city's capital project for Prospect Road is still in the planning phase, so that is a long ways off. I don't have much more information about it at this time. I have a meeting actually next week discussing the plans for the Prospect widening.
I guess I'll make the statement that I will oppose this project to the very end until there is a plan on Prospect. When there's a plan for Prospect, hey, go for it. I have no problem with it.
There is a plan in progress to widen it to and I know that the widening will occur from 25 going further west than this development reaches. So it will be widened in this area, and that will be we are working with the applicant team on the design with the tie-ins to the frontage road and the tie-ins to Street B, I believe it's called right now. So there is a plan, and the road will be widened in the near future.
Okay.
that is right. It's been in the works for years. And if anyone on the developer team, if Jim Birdsall was here, he would know the latest and greatest. But there have been negotiations between this developer team and the city and adjacent property owners. There has been design work done, some right-of-way acquired. The crossings underneath Prospect recently widened by the city so that when Prospect does get widened, the culverts, they're almost like bridges, but the big culverts that take Box Elder Creek underneath, that those will be adequate for that. So it's a big infrastructure project that's been in the works. And I don't know if anybody here knows kind of the latest status.
Yeah, Clark, Jim
There's Jim.
is here.
Okay.
This is Jim. I can jump in on that
Right
if
on.
you'd like me to.
I would like you to, just so I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my name's Jim Birdsall. I represent the ownership group that owns the overall project. And we're under contract with the Rockefeller Group on the project that's being discussed tonight. But yeah, the question about Prospect Road is a good one. It's an arterial street, major arterial, which puts it under the city's purview to design and construct the permanent improvements. Our understanding is that the plan is to make it a 4-lane road, 2 lanes in each direction, plus turn lanes where warranted. And that those plans are under progress. My understanding is that they've acquired most, if not all, of the right-of-way necessary to do the widening, but the funding has not been put in place to do the construction project. So we are in process with what we call our backbone infrastructure package, which are the roads that surround the site that's being discussed tonight, as well as improvements on the frontage road. And are in discussions with the city on if there are interim improvements required in order for us to move forward in lieu of that widening project moving forward in a timely manner. So there's a lot of discussion going on. As Clark mentioned, all the infrastructure that's been built so far, for example, for the Box Elder floodplain improvements has been sized for that widening that I mentioned, the future widening of Prospect Road. So a lot of the work is in place and most of the design as well. So I think it's just a matter of timing for the city on when they're going to be ready to get the funding in place to do that widening.
Okay, I hope it happens before the development goes in. I think that's all I have.
Clark, do you know if there will be a TIS required for this project?
There will be a traffic study required with this submittal. Excuse me. So, yeah, they haven't done that yet. That's part of, again, I said if they proceed forward, which it really looks like they will, to doing an actual development plan submittal, that traffic study will be one part of that. And
Great.
it is the thing that would make any recommendations for mitigation that's needed based on the impacts of this development.
So David, if you want to go ahead and drop your email in the chat, I'd be happy to send you that traffic study when it does come out.
I tried to copy and paste from the chat and I couldn't do it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, okay.
I wonder why.
You can send me the copy of that if you want to.
Yeah, I'd be happy.
There's some good
to,
links that look interesting that I'd like to go.
Yeah, just to
pursue.
keep up with
Okay.
what they're planning for that. Yeah, there, I got it. So I'll
Okay.
try to remember to send that to you. And if anybody else is interested, it will be published online. We have an archive for public documents like that, but it can sometimes be difficult to find it. So you're always welcome to reach out to me. My email is in that chat.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Harley, your hand went up. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, a follow-up question on the traffic. So
Go ahead.
turning left onto Summit View from Prospect, it can be challenging now. There's no more protected left turn arrow like there used to be. Or turning, left onto Prospect from Summit View. I guess eventually we get a light there, but it seems like the turning left from Prospect onto Summit View would be exacerbated as we add more and more traffic. Are the plans discussed, for widening the road? Will they help ease that, the flow on that intersection? Maybe a roundabout or something so that we can turn left onto Summit View more readily?
I would really expect, so I am not up to speed on the latest status of the plans for Prospect widening from this development back to Summit View, but I'm thinking that they would surely include rebuilding that intersection with signals. And a roundabout would also be evaluated. That's typical for these arterial intersections. But that would surely be part of the Prospect project. It's true, Summit View and Prospect out there have changed over the years. It is really difficult. So the capital projects engineering team that is working on that is who would have the answer. Maybe we can get an answer and put it in the notes.
Yeah, do you want me to see if I can find an email address from that for them?
Oh,
This is Tim from engineering. Something that I could possibly locate and send tomorrow if that's people would like to see that.
and there will be meeting notes from this meeting. And
Yes. And I'm just saying that I could send we could attach the preliminary design plans for that intersection if that's something that we're allowed to do.
or just an answer like, yes, the plan includes future signalization, or whatever the answer is exactly accurate. But
Right.
there's no way that this whole East Prospect, widening would not include the intersection and make it functional. That just doesn't happen.
Thank you. I do have one more question if there are no others waiting in line.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Carly, go ahead. Unmute yourself and ask your next question. We don't have anybody else.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
No, you're good.
Yeah, so just a question. The new development with the apartments, and then of course we have the kind of the Box Elder HOA open space buffer there. But will there be any physical barriers between all of this new development and, you know, the Box Elder Estates, like fencing or anything, or will it be more just totally open as far as, you know, pedestrian traffic cutting through the Box Elder Estates and all that sort of thing?
So I can speak a little bit to the overall development. If you go back to the ODP page, you'll see that there is a stretch along the western side that says UE. And that is an urban estate zoning, and that's not a part of this project at all. But that zoning would be like larger lots or more open space. Not only that, but there is an open space buffer already between the Box Elder Estates and the ODP boundary property. But there is that, like I said, that's not necessarily part of this project.
Okay, thank you. So the urban estates there then would act as a transition zone basically and kind of create a separation, if probably physical separation as well from the apartment complexes.
Yes, there would. From the apartment complexes, there's the UE is not necessarily between those, but it's a pretty significant distance anyways.
Yeah, it's a street on the west side of the apartment complex. So there's a street between the apartment complex and whatever sort of big backyards there are to the west of that. So.
Okay, so there wouldn't be, it would basically block pedestrian traffic. They would have to cut through backyards of people's homes in that urban estate zone, you know, or something. So there's
Yeah.
a nice barrier there, I think, then planned from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, there's definitely people's like yards and their fences that are there.
Okay, thank you.
There may be a time when there are sort of park spaces in here, and there may be a time when there are some restaurants or small, you know, convenience stores or something like that in the commercial part of the gateway, where people from Box Elder Estates might want to cut through and you know, get to there, get to the trail along Box Elder Creek, for example, without going out and around and going left on Prospect and all that. So, you know, we'll see in the evolution, and maybe the developers will find that they want to put some kind of a little rail fence or something. Kind of probably depends on what people's backyards are like now, I would guess.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
See any other hands raised. I'm going to start my kind of wind up spiel here, but if you have anything that comes up, do feel free to continue to raise your hand or throw it in the chat.
Here, let me,
Go
while
ahead,
we,
Eric.
while we have everybody here and we have Jim Birdsall here, let me just ask Jim if he happens to recall or know whether the overall development plan, or ODP, for the whole gateway had a traffic study. I just went into those files to see if one just popped up easily. I did not see one in there. But Jim, do you know if one
Yeah.
was?
Yeah, Clark, we did what we called a master traffic study when we did the rezone of this parcel and the amended overall development plan.
Oh,
We're having discussions with engineering right now about updating that
okay.
for our backbone infrastructure package, because, and I think the gentleman's name was David, if I remember right, brought up that there's been increased traffic on Prospect Road with the opening of the high school. And I think also the interchange improvements in the ease of getting on and off the interstate compared to what it was before. I think that is also increasing the traffic on Prospect Road. So city engineering staff is asking us to do some updates to that study, and we're in the process of working on that. I also understand that this project specifically has to do a traffic impact report as well. I don't know for sure that I'm right, but I think that's the case. So there's going to be a lot of analysis, both of this project specifically and of the overall project related to traffic, access onto and off of Prospect Road and the frontage road.
This is Dave with the Rockefeller Group. We've engaged Kimley Horn to perform the site-specific traffic study. So that's in the works to be submitted alongside the first PDP submittal.
Okay, Em, thanks, sorry.
No worries. Sounds good. I'll keep an eye on that and make sure to send it to those who are concerned and make sure they can keep an eye out for it. So you'll notice that I put some information in the chat for you all so that you can have it, because it's difficult to copy and paste information from slides. So I wanted you all to have that information ready and available. There are some links there, as well as some information on how to find this particular project on our website, including the project number and the title for it. I would definitely recommend checking out our webpage, fc.gov/development review/proposals. That's where this project is going to be located, and you can keep an eye on its status as it goes through the development review process. And you can see when it goes to public hearing, and you can also access that public documents archive that I mentioned earlier. And you can find things like the traffic study and all the other submittal documents when they do come in at that website. And that link is in there. You can also find the video to tonight's conversation. So if you want to remember what was said by our staff or by the applicants, or you want to see the slides again, you can watch the video, or you can reach out to me to see the slides in person. I also pasted my contact information in there for you. I create a weekly newsletter where when this goes to public hearing, that information will go out in the newsletter. So if you want to subscribe and get that, you can subscribe at that link. And then I also have launched a survey for folks who have come to neighborhood meetings, and I would really appreciate if you all could take a few minutes and do that, just because we're looking to improve them a little bit, and also take a look and see who is coming to our meetings, and get a better idea of who is being served and who's not being served at these meetings. So that link is also in there. Going from here on, you know a little bit more about development review now. So it will go through that process. It could go through review for an indefinite amount of time. But we do have some hopeful dates for when it'll come out of review. In May of 2023, I think is when Savannah mentioned it will hopefully go to public hearing. And that will be your next time to engage in person on this topic. All public hearings are open to a public comment, and anybody from anywhere is able to come and make a public comment on this project. And that will actually be directly to the decision makers who are deciding whether to approve or deny the project. In the meantime, public comments and questions are always welcome at my email, which is in the chat, the devreviewcomments@fcgov.com email. Those comments are saved. And if it does go to public hearing, they will end up in the packet for that public hearing. So they can also end up in front of decision makers as well. So all really good tools for you to continue to engage on this project, and keep yourselves educated and make sure that your questions are being answered. Because as projects go through the development review process, they often change quite dramatically. And we want to make sure that that isn't a closed off process that the public doesn't get to be involved in. So with that, I will go ahead and close the meeting. You have plenty of avenues to reach out to me. So I hope that you take them if you have any follow-up questions. And I have a few things to follow up with you all as well. So we will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Em.
you.
Thanks, Clark.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank-
Em.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Okay,
ya.
Hi, thank you.
right, thanks.